Hey guys, it's Sherry Vegas, and in this tutorial today we're going to be creating a stained glass effect in resin. I am really excited to try this idea. I have seen it floating around online, and I'm going to add in the description box below the two artists that I found that have been doing this, that have inspired this tutorial, so definitely go and check them out. I really like this because it's something quite different, and I feel like it works really well with resin to kind of create like that fake stained glass. So a few things that you're going to need to get started is obviously resin. Today I am using the crystal cast resin from Make Art Resin, some alcohol inks, as well as the Pebeo. I'll add the link down below in the description box, and you can buy it off Amazon. The Pebeo little pens, what are they? I'm not quite sure what this is called, but I will add the link to it below. But these Pebeo, and I've got this in tin. They also come in a few different other colors. I picked tin today because it's going to look like the LED lighting with the stained glass, but you can obviously pick whatever color you like. I have seen those two artists use like white and silvers and golds, and they come out really great.
First up, we just need to mix up our casting resin. Today I'm using the crystal cast from Make Art, but you can obviously use whatever casting resin that you prefer. Once you mix that up, you just want to pour it into your silicone molds. You do need to pick clear silicone molds because it's going to make it a lot easier when you come to doing your design. But if you don't have that, you can obviously use whatever silicone molds you want, but it's just going to make it a lot easier, and you'll see that in a little bit. I'm only filling these up about halfway because I am going to be doing 2 layers of resin. Once I've got my first layer of resin in, then I just use my heat gun to pop any little resin bubbles, and then I need to let this set. I let my coasters set overnight, and then I've just drawn up some rough designs. And you can see here that because I'm using clear silicone molds, I can see those designs through my mold, which is going to make it a lot easier because then I can just trace without trying to freehand it. I've decided to go for really simple designs that don't have a lot of detail. This is the first time I'm working with this Pebeo product, and I thought if I added too much detail, it's going to make it a lot harder on myself, and that simple would be better. Working with these pens was a little bit different to just using a pencil because you do have to squeeze at the same time, and it took me a little bit to get used to the correct amount of pressure and how long to keep it in one spot for too long. I feel like once I use these a few more times, I'll probably get the hang of it a bit better and get some really nice, crisp, clean lines, but I feel like I did okay for my first time using these. Now, if you do make a mistake or you're just not happy with your line work, you can always wipe it off with a little bit of paper towel and some alcohol before the pen has set itself into place. And then I'm just going to start working on my second design. My second design is an orchid, and I've kept it quite simple to just make it easier on myself. Once you're happy with how they are looking, you can then start coloring them in. For this, I decided to use alcohol inks because obviously I want a translucent finish to this, so that way it will look like stained glass, and I had alcohol inks on hand. There were some good and bad things about working with the alcohol inks. One, if you did make a mistake, you can easily just remove it using a little bit of alcohol on either a cotton tip or paper towel or a clean paintbrush and remove it straight off the resin. So I did find that was really helpful. But the thing that I didn't like about the alcohol inks was I did find it went blotchy in areas and I didn't get a smooth finish. And I also found it was hard to do any sort of gradient with them because as soon as you add another color in it, it starts to create those splotches again. So the alcohol inks, I would say, were okay, but I definitely want to look into some other options when it comes to coloring these for the next project. The other option I did think about colouring in these pieces was mixing up different coloured resins and colouring them in that way. The reason why I decided not to do that was just because I would have to mix up quite a few batches, and you have the same issue where you can't create gradients, you can't blend colours with resin. By that I mean like you can't go from a dark pink going out to a light pink because that just won't work. So that's why I didn't go with it, and also the fact that it would take so long for it to set in between. If you did get some of your colour onto your line work, you can just go back in with a clean brush and some alcohol and clean that off, or a cotton tip, whichever one you prefer. Because we are working with alcohol inks before we do our top coat of resin, we need to seal them. I'm just using the Duramax gloss spray to seal these into place. If you don't seal your alcohol inks, you might find that when you add the resin, the colours can bleed or they can change colour. So I just give these a nice coat of my sealing spray, and then I let that set. I let it set for a few hours before I come back in. I've decided I want to add a little bit of sparkle to these pieces, so I've just mixed up a tiny amount of resin and I'm adding some abalone shell sparkle just to key areas of my coasters. The great thing about having the raised line work is it actually creates little barriers for the resin, so you don't get any overflow into a different colour that you might not want the sparkle. I also mixed up these two colours together just to create this soft purple, and I'm just going to be adding that in the centre of the flower just to add a little bit of sparkle and create that little bit of gradient going from that purple out to that pink. Then I'm just going to leave this resin to set. I'm just going to leave it to set for a few hours, so that way when I do pour my top coat, they're not going to all run in together. And the final step is to just pour a clear top coat over everything, and that way you're going to protect all of your design. For a first try using this technique and using those pens, I feel like these have turned out pretty good. I have so many more ideas for different projects using this design coming up in the future, and I will add in the description box below the two artists that inspired this look, so definitely go and check them out on Instagram. I just left my coasters until the next day to demold, and yes, I know I did use these molds upside down, but these are just trial pieces, so I really didn't mind too much. But I definitely will be getting some more clear molds that don't have the ridge to them, because obviously you have to work face up. Also too, if you guys ever do a piece inspired by one of my tutorials, I would love for you to tag me on my new Instagram, which is Sherry Vegas Artist, and I would love to share all of those on my stories. So if you tag me, I'm definitely going to share those around, and I love to see everyone's work.
I'm actually quite happy with how these two pieces have turned out. I definitely do think we've practiced my skill using the little gel sort of pen, I don't know what to call this. The liner will get better. My hands were a little bit shaky, but that's obviously because I've not practiced this before, and it's a really fun technique to do, and I feel like there's lots of different designs now floating around my head for future tutorials on different alternatives to this sort of style. But yeah, I'm actually for a first attempt, I think they've turned out pretty well. I'm on the fence about working with the alcohol inks. Again, they were okay, but they just didn't give you a nice even solid color. I did find that they were a tiny bit splotchy in certain areas, but they were still really good to use just for that sort of translucent to make it look like stained glass. I definitely want to look into maybe using some acrylic inks next time, seeing how that works with resin. If you know any other sort of paints or inks that would work really great on resin, please leave it down in the comments below. I'm definitely up to trying some new styles. The alcohol inks were pretty good, but yeah, definitely want to try a different ink, see if I get better effects, or I can blend it a bit better with other colors and do more of that sort of ombre, create some more depth to the piece. But other than that, it was a really fun one to do. Let me know if this is something you would try out in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the 2 artists that I found that inspired this tutorial. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, please do subscribe.